And greetings. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here in live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast with Todd Erzin. Aaron McIntyre going to be joined by our managing editor, Rob Eno, here in a moment. For the Deace Group, I am Steve Deace. We're brought to you by our friends over at the Conduit Clothing Company. Aaron, can you put up a little side-by-side between you and I? We did not coordinate. But to quote the very underrated 90s rom-com Boomerang. But we are wearing the exact same hoodie today.
It's comfortable.
It is very comfy. It's the first time I've worn Conduit's clothing, man.
Yeah.
Now, I think you're probably wearing a large, and I'm probably wearing an extra large, so it ain't the same size, obviously. Nevertheless, same comfort, same look. And here's the thing. This time of year, too, gets a little colder outside. Not scratchy, right? Sometimes those hoodies you get, they look great on the outside. They're kind of scratchy on the inside. That's why you got to wear a T-shirt. Not with these. And here's the thing. Every single order, even if it's just a $2 sticker, comes with a free hardcover ESV Bible, not for you to keep, but hopefully to give it away to a friend, coworker, family member. This is what the Conduit Clothing Company is all about, the Christian apparel brand that's not just selling merch and gear and swag. They're building a movement. So especially to help others through you. You be the conduit for them to hear the gospel. All right. So be a light in a dark world. And you can also save if you go to conduitclothing.com. That's conduitclothing.com. Conduit, CONDUIT. Conduitclothing.com. Also, you can save right now with my name, last name anyway, Deace is your promo code to get a year-long subscription to Blaze TV. Perfect time to order right now because it's going to take you all the way through next year's crucial midterms and all of our exclusive analysis and coverage here of that event here on Blaze TV, not to mention whatever else 2026 has in store. For as little as $8 a month, you can join us in helping to shape the future at blazetv.com/Deace. Use the code Deace for that $20 off discount. You can gift this as well to the discerning patriot in your life. blazetv.com/Deace. That's blazetv.com/Deace. All right, coming up next hour, it'll be your turn on a Feedback Friday. But first, let us begin with the Deace Group. Welcome to Rob. Merry Christmas to you, my friend. And your weekly look at the week that was begins, as it always does, with Issue 1. Bleep. Lord Nefarious says.
Folks in the military need to understand, the law of the sea, the Geneva Conventions, what the law says. And I'm concerned that if there were, in fact, as reported, survivors clinging to a damaged vessel, that could be, over a line.
And I think in many ways, the uniformed military may help save us from this president and his lame people like Hegseth.
The majority of Americans across the country, regardless of political party, know that immigrants from all over the world, Somalia, India, wherever they're from, Latin America, Africa, that immigrants have built this country and make this country what it is today.
Can you shed any light on why the fraud got so out of control in Minnesota?
I think what happened is that, when you have...
And I'll tell you what, in my time on this, I'd never seen this before. People driving by my house and using the R word.
We have a party that I think needs to design and develop a compelling economic vision for the future where people feel included to reconcile the fact that if we don't democratize our economy, we're not going to save democracy. And I don't think it's healthy that we have 10% of people that own 2/3 the wealth in this country.
Can you shed any light on why the fraud got so out of control?
Is that, when you have these...
Overall, immigrants have a lower crime committal rate than white supremacists.
Is that, when you have these kind of new programs that are designed to help people, you're oftentimes relying on third parties to be able to facilitate And I just think that a lot of the COVID programs that were set up, they were set up so quickly that a lot of the guardrails did not get created.
And guess what? Some white women, the Western civilization women, the pure women, the American women, quote unquote, the Rust Belt women, the real women, they like some of us brown folks. We don't take them. They come to us.
Everyone knows that our president is racist, xenophobic, Islamophobic, and we are going to fight that.
Brown people are everywhere. I want you to realize this. You have lost. Your story is a story filled with misery. It's filled with bland chicken. It's filled with terrible, terrible dry-ass meat. Your music sucks. All your culture sucks. That's why the kids listen to black people and their music. That's why the kids love Latinos. Your parties suck because they're monochromatic. Our parties have better food, better music, better looking women.
So I get to announce with joy that I'm transitioning. I'm affirming and saying to all of you that I am transgender. And so the best way to put this is that I'm not becoming a woman. I'm giving up pretending to be a man.
Oh, I think he gave that up a long time ago. All right, let's get to the opening question. Rob, as the guest, you get the first literal crack at it. What was the most wicked thing you just saw, my friend, and why?
The most obnoxious thing was the way that Gavin Newsom crosses his legs. But
since you brought that up, can I get a point of order? All right. So listen, I'm 246 pounds. Okay. I'm not crossing my leg, and I do a ton of squats. I'm not crossing my legs like that. Okay. So I'm not one to ask. All right. You're more of a slender dude. Can you cross your legs like that?
I can cross my legs. Like that, I wasn't even paying attention to his.
Hold on. Erzen, you did it. What? That was the right answer. We laid the trap. All right. We laid the homo trap out there. All right. Seriously entertaining this. And without even, of course, now Aaron's going to bail me out, but without even contemplation, you said, well, I wasn't even paying attention to how he was crossing his leg. That, my friend, the dude code is proud of you. You have honored said dude code. That was the right initial inclination and answer. You did it. You did it. But now that it's in front of you, now that you see this, can you cross your legs like that? How can a guy do that?
I suppose I could try. It would not come naturally to me. I suppose it has something to do with the lack of a spine.
Or the lack of some other things. Indeed. All right, Rob, anyway, finish your point, my friend. Go ahead.
I was going to say that his ankle looks worse than, a Giants kicker ankle does after failing a kick. But no, I was going to say that the guy talking about how my chicken's bland and my meat has no moisture, and I bring raisins in the potato salad. I think that guy was it's absolutely insane. I mean, the guy's saying the quiet part out loud. I don't know who he is, but he's saying the quiet part out loud, that, we are coming here and we are going to replace you and we are going to take over your country. He basically, he was saying it with, you're not invited to the cookout, and you bring bland chicken anyways. But that I think is the guy. I will remind him that I am French and we have French cooking, which is, the best in the world. But besides that, he's the guy.
Same question to you.
No, he's right, of course, in so many ways. Put him in. I was going to bookend him with the Arizona senator. I get the brother because he's got a twin brother. What's his name, Aaron?
Mark Kelly.
Mark Kelly. Yeah, just casually running a Keller revolution.
Yeah, listen.
As one does.
Look at his deep NPR hushed tones level of concern for the drug runners. Meanwhile, right there, he knows in his state, in every state in the union, for years now, we have had an epidemic of guys who look like that brown guy who are getting arrested for all manner of things and then getting let out of prison immediately or not early or not charged at all and going on and killing or raping or lighting somebody on fire again over and over and over again. And I'm quite certain the answer is never to when he has had hushed tones for that. But for here now, because we're handling drug runners. And because there are all manner of men like him across the fruited plain, Republican or Democrat, Christian or not, just like him, that brown guy lets to step to the microphone like that with impunity and say it. So who's the winner here? Listen, I don't like it, but that's it. The guy saying that, he may be evil, but he's also stronger.
John Daniel Davidson, Todd.
Yes.
We are in America.
Yeah, we're becoming evil.
The normies will always pick the stronger horse.
We got all our distractions. Rubbing them all over our body. We love them. Why can't I entertain myself? He's just stronger. Look at that vigor. And then look at Senator Kelly. But we got to worry about the sensitivities and the pronouns of the drug runners. We're cooked, folks. We're absolutely cooked. Aaron.
Well, it was going to be the casual calls for, casual color revolution that you just heard from two senators in the same week. One saying, amongst other things, we've featured other clips of, you should not obey illegal orders, and any reasonable person can work out for themselves what is a reasonable and unreasonable order. I believe our troops violated the Geneva Convention. And other Democrats, other left-wingers, this is very pernicious, saying, well, we just feel so sorry for the troops because, they're put in a tough position because when we get into power, if they don't disobey their orders now, we're going to put them in prison. That's kind of the message. And then another senator, can't remember his name, he was right after Mark Kelly. The troops will be our salvation. They'll be our savior. If they're not in prison for that, what are we even doing?
Right.
Here? It's not understandable, but you can kind of go through much of what was done to us during COVID was done under the cover of darkness. And it took shows like this to try to uncover and try to find the truth as best as we possibly could. But so much of what was done from the expert class, kind of behind the scenes. Plausible deniability abounds. Okay? So it's kind of understandable. It's not right. I don't want to understand it. But plausible deniability abounds when it came to so many things when it comes to COVID. This is not that. This is out in the daylight. This is out in the open. Now, I'm not saying they're morally equivalent, but we're getting to the area where you're telegraphing to the military that if you do not disobey, the commander-in-chief right now will throw you in prison when we get power again. That pisses me off. It should piss you off. And I understand the inclination, well, what is being done about it? What's the point of getting pissed off about this if nothing's going to be done about it? And to you, I say, I don't know. What are we even doing here?
I think we ask those kinds of questions a lot. Exit question on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the odds that I'm going to admit that Rob turned out to be right with his Patriots jingoism that he slobbered all over our show the last time he was here.
I forgot about that.
And 10 being the odds, same old Lions has viciously returned to my favorite team. Rank this week's level of total depravity, Todd.
They just won last night.
Yeah, but more players are lost for the season. Didn't gain any ground and whatsoever in the playoff hunt. All we're doing now is just costing ourselves a draft pick. Todd, rank this week's level of total depravity.
It's a 10, but your Lions commentary may be more depraved still.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Aaron.
10.
Rob.
You sucked me in with the Patriots at 10.
All right. Before we get to issue 2, don't forget about our friends over at Patriot Mobile. They have been a leader in the red parallel economy space. They give you a lot more options than even some of the communist big corporate companies give you. And you can change networks. They've got access to all 3 major networks within their main hub. You can change networks anytime you want for free. Switching's never been easier. Keep your phone. Upgrade your phone. Keep your number. Switch your number. Maybe you're locked into a bad contract with a communist company you can't get out of. Well, they've got contract buyout programs available to you as well. All right. And you can get started with a free month of service with My Name's Steve when you go to patriotmobile.com/Steve and get started today. Our family has been using Patriot Mobile as our mobile phone provider now for going on over 5 years. patriotmobile.com/Steve. Again, that's patriotmobile.com/Steve. And then use My Name's Steve as the promo code to get you started with a free month of service today. All right, let's get to issue 2. Let's try this. Ready? America, but for Americans.
On Thanksgiving Eve, an Afghan national targeted National Guardsmen stationed in Washington, D.C., a stone's throw from the White House. The Afghan, who had worked with the CIA in his home country and was brought over during the botched pullout from Afghanistan, was granted asylum earlier this year after applying in December of last year under the Biden administration. In the aftermath of the tragedy, which killed one National Guardsman, Sarah Beckstrom, and seriously injured another, Andrew Wolf, the State Department announced all visas for people traveling on Afghani passports are being put on hold, and President Trump called for a moratorium on immigration from third world countries, including reverse migration for some back to their home countries. Additionally, President Trump this week shined a spotlight on the state of Minnesota and their population of Somalians, calling Governor Tim Walz retarded for allowing a massive fraud scheme to fester under his watch. About $1 billion earmarked for COVID-related emergency spending that was bilked by dozens of Somalians in that state. In Oregon, a DHS arrest detainer has been placed on an Indian illegal alien who crashed into 2 newlyweds near Bend, killing them. Indian national Rajinder Kumar, a 32-year-old, was arrested after he jackknifed his semi-truck and collided with a vehicle in Bend on November 24th, killing William Carter and his new wife, Jennifer Lower. Kumar was in the U.S. illegally, having been released into the country by the Biden administration. The utopian dream of America immigration policy as a cultural melting pot has long since given way to the nightmares we see unfolding daily, a witch's brew of crime and dysfunction.
By the way, I got to tell you, we've not talked about this much, but since Aaron invoked it yet again, I am deeply offended that President Trump referred to the Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as seriously, quote, seriously retarded. There's absolutely no place for that kind of language in our discourse today. What he should have said instead is, quote, seriously, Tim Walz is retarded. All right, let's get to the opening question here. True or false? There is no way to fix America without fixing immigration. Todd.
Correct. Obviously, so this isn't theoretical. We have evidence for this in Europe. It also has everything to do with what I said in my rant of 5 to 10 minutes ago of the difference in the men. They plan on conquering. We plan on being comfortable. And that applies to this issue and so many other issues. So, of course, I just retweeted something today. Ed Dowd, who's been on this show before talking about COVID, but he's got an economic background. He's talking about the flood of immigrants, how it's messed up the housing crisis. We've talked about what it's done with wages and job access. There is absolutely no way, if we don't deal with this so clearly. Not in, right now the Catholic Church, USCCB, just put out another commentary that should have been made by eunuchs, saying that we must treasure the distinctiveness of all. No. This is what we talked about yesterday, quite frankly, on Theology Thursday, in terms of unless we handle evil first and foremost, we have no way on planting the seeds of good so that they don't get choked up. It's the parable of the sower. Mm-hmm. We have got to handle evil. And no Somalis by birth or anything like that. Steve has made this abundantly clear. It's not about their race. It's about how they live and what their plans are for us. And we don't have to guess. They're out in the open. So we're just suckers and we deserve what we get if we will not match the energy of the self-professed brown guy who sits there taunting us on a daily basis. And that's just the beginning of what's coming for us.
Rob, same question to you. No way to fix America without fixing immigration. True or false?
Absolutely correct. It is not racist to point out that a group of people lives in a way that's incompatible with the United States. Glenn likes to say, and I saw him say it when he was with Megyn Kelly here in Texas, the left likes to say, oh, look, that Thomas Jefferson had a Quran. The reason Thomas Jefferson printed a Quran was so that he could give it to Americans to say, this is what they want to do to you. Don't let them into your country. I mean, that's why Thomas Jefferson printed and distributed the Quran. He didn't do it because he thought it was a great book, right? Our first war was against these people. Islam is incompatible with the West, but it's not just that, right? I mean, I live here in Texas. I don't know when you come and visit us here in the Dallas studios, I don't know how much you go out and about, but I think the city of Irving might be a majority South Asian population now, right? I mean, we live basically in Mumbai. Here in North Texas, and it's mostly H-1B visas. I have men that are my age in their 50s, their early to mid 50s, who cannot get tech jobs that they had when they were in their 20s and 30s. I have numerous friends, Steve, that have had good paying tech jobs in the past that now deliver mail. There's nothing wrong with delivering mail, but they used to have $130,000, $140,000, $150,000 IT jobs and programming jobs, but those now come in to indentured servants that come in from mostly South Asia, and they've got an entire pipeline with these H-1Bs to give them jobs. And I don't know if you know, Steve, but they can work remotely now. They don't have to actually work at the place that is employing them because of the COVID era regulations. So you can be someone from another country, come in and take somebody's an American's tech job, and you can work from your apartment complex.
Well, if that's the
here
case,
in America, instead of working from,
then we don't. Then let's at least split the baby in half. Then they can work remotely from Bangladesh. They can do that,
right?
And we can still we can at least have our culture. We can at least have that,
right? And that's what I was getting at. I mean, that's what this is. There are people who live in a way that's incompatible with the American way of life. They tell us that they want to institute Sharia, but when you say it and you play their words, and there's multiple cases of it, you're told that you're racist. I mean, they're trying to, and I believe, our Sarah Gonzalez and some other people, in Glenn and us here at The Blaze outed it, but they were going to build a Sharia law city here in North Texas, just east of Dallas, out near Deion Sanders Ranch, called Epic City. It was basically going to be a place that Sharia law. If you look at the plans, it has an assembly hall and a future school, otherwise known as a mosque and a madrasa, right? That was going to be something that was going to be built. What's happening in Minnesota is coming here to Texas. We're Americans. We have Western values, and it's not racist. It's not jingoistic to say that the people that come here should do it. And, how many people came across the border with the Biden administration? 20 million?
As many as 20
we don't
million.
know who they are?
Yeah.
I mean, we've never had that level of immigration unchecked.
No civilization every other civilization in human history would just call that that level of unchecked immigration would be called an invasion, is what every other civilization in human history would have called it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're at the late stage Roman Empire, right? That's where we're at. We've invited everybody in to help fight our wars, to do all of those things, which is what the late stage Roman Empire did, or at least in the West. It took another 1,000 years for it to fall in the East. But that's where we are. So yes, we need to fix our immigration system. But I'll just say one final thing. When my mother came from Canada, her uncle had to put up his house so that they could come here. And if they took, in like the first, I think, 10 years that they were here, if they took any government assistance, the bond that he put up on his house would have been called in. And when he sold his house, he would have owed the federal government money for the money that his brother and his family took. That's how immigration used to be in this country. Now you've got Ilhan Omar saying, well, the programs that went fast and you could, there were a lot of people that were doing fraud. Do we really blame them?
Right. Yeah. I mean, Tim Walz isn't the only one retarded around here. Aaron.
Tim Walz I'm friends with school shooters and people drive my house calling me a retard. Who says that?
Retards.
People drive by my house and say the R word. Who says that out loud? Japan in 2023 accepted 303 refugees. And they lost their damn minds. They have been facing a demographic bomb in Japan for over a generation. Shrinking population. Yet somehow they managed to make it work. What Ed Dowd was talking about, Todd, the influx of foreigners into this country for a while, that'll make all those charts that go up and to the right look really good for a little while.
Yeah.
But at what cost? There's always a trade-off to everything. There's always a trade-off. And it is absolute witch's brew of chaos and dysfunction. Dysfunction, dysfunction, dysfunction. How many stories have we had this year about some illegal driving a freaking missile on 18 wheels, killing people because they don't have the skill to drive something like that? How many stories have we had?
Mm-hmm.
That is dysfunction because they don't rules, laws, speed limit.
What are those?
What are those? We don't. What are those?
You're so right, Aaron, about those graphs that go up and to the right that are red. That's the point, because there's somebody somewhere just saying, well, there's just too much money. All those people in Texas, yeah, there's more libs than there were before. Those are a bunch of wear cowboy hats and cowboy boots, and they think they're conservative, and they're going to hire them because there's just too much money.
You want to talk about graphs? Before we run out of time, Fox News ran this graph yesterday. Non-citizen Social Security numbers issued during the Biden administration: 270,000 in 21, over 590,000 in 22, over 960,000 in 23, over 2.1 million in 24. Gee, I wonder why that escalated so much in 24. Because what are you probably more likely to legitimately be able to claim if you've got a Social Security card?
Citizenship voting.
By the way, that's more people. The Biden administration gave more non-citizens Social Security cards in 4 years than live in our home state of Iowa. If we just took the amount of people they gave those to in 2024, that's more people than live in Nebraska, Idaho, West Virginia, Hawaii, New Hampshire, Maine, Montana, Rhode Island, Delaware, South Dakota, North Dakota, Alaska, D.C., Vermont, and Wyoming. It would be the 39th largest state in the union. Just the amount of people, non-Americans, they gave Social Security cards to last year. So with that all said, to the exit question we go with another true or false to close it out. Let's bookend this thing. True or false, number 2. We cannot fix immigration without an immigration moratorium. All out. All out moratorium has to happen. I don't see a way to fix this. We're only debating the length of time. All out.
Hard true.
Absolutely.
Rob.
True.
And how long? How long? A year? I think it needs to be like
10
a decade.
years. Yeah,
I think it's got to be like a decade.
No, you got to take this way beyond the next election, the next cycle. You have to do that. It has to be a decade.
I mean, just the amount of damage to undo here is utterly extraordinary. I mean, this is a mortally wounded culture because of what we're talking about here.
We can't resist our near-term lies. We love them way too much. We've got to take it out of our hands for at least a decade.
So if we're doing a moratorium, are we processing any asylum requests then? Even persecuted Christians? Make an exception for that?
Well,
what vetting tool do you trust?
Only Christians.
We should.
Only Christians.
I mean, first of all, I would only consider it for Christians. I agree on that.
And they have to.
But I don't even know, how would we even vet that? Because most of them are going to come from what parts of the world?
Muslim dominated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How do we know those aren't insurgents? How do we know? I hate saying things like this, but this level of invasion requires an extreme pendulum swing the other way so that you can go back to a truth and grace-based system later on. Like, we don't have the luxury of nuance with these kinds of numbers. That is a flat out invasion. And if we can't document the 20 million number that Trump throws around, that's a documentation right there. At the very least, they gave Social Security cards to over 4 million people that were not citizens of the United States. And over 2 million of them were last year alone. In an election year. Sure, that was a coincidence. More in a moment. This year, you can give a gift that will not be re-gifted. In fact, you're going to have a hard time actually giving the gift, which is why I would suggest if you're getting Kexi cookies, just have them sent directly to the person so that you're not an Indian giver. Because once you lay eyes on these things, you're going to be like, I don't know. You're going to be way more my precious than it's just better to give than to receive. These cookies are incredible. Here are their holiday flavors. Salted caramel, peppermint fudge, the super popular cinnamon roll cookie. They've not sent me the holiday box yet, so if Kexi is listening, because it says here in my script, Steve, insert your favorite. You've not sent me these, so I don't have a favorite yet.
That's a strong play.
Was that subtle or not?
That's
can't tell.
Poker table, that's just all in.
You know
right
me,
there.
I just go all in every hand.
All in.
Every hand. So it's a big night, one way or the other, and a short one, because I'm just all in every hand.
Show me the money!
That's right. But these are, listen, I have had more than my share of Kexi cookies over the last year plus.
True
They
that.
are phenomenal. All right. Remember, their Christmas cutoff is December the 15th. They ship nationwide. All right. And with the code DACE15, you'll get 15% off your order. All right. Kexi, K-E-K-S-I. Fresh ingredients whose names you can pronounce. They taste just like homemade because they are. Kexi.com, K-E-K-S-I, and then use the code DACE15 for 15% off your order. And remember, Christmas shipping cutoff, December the 15th. Kexi.com, use the code DACE15 for the 15% off. All right, let's welcome in our managing editor here at The Blaze, Rob Eno, as we continue on with our weekly look at the week that was. Let's get to issue 3. Is this a winning 2026 message?
Steve, for this one, you've sent us a shot and a chaser. We'll begin with Congressman Tim Burchett on CNN.
Concerned at all that this was closer than it has been in the past?
I'm always concerned, to be honest with you. And yeah, we got a real problem, and we better wake up.
What about issues like affordability and the like? Do you guys you need to do a better job on those issues?
Of course we need to. The best friend the Democrats have right now is the Republicans' messaging, because we do a terrible job of messaging.
So there's Congressman Tim Burchett in the aftermath of the slimmer than probably it should have been election victory in Tennessee's 7th congressional special election, charging Republicans to get better at messaging. Here's President Trump during the cabinet meeting earlier this week.
That's what he had. And we fixed inflation, and we fixed almost everything, if you want to know the truth.
So there's your shot and chaser.
All right. Rob, I'll start with you. Is that a winning 2026 message?
No. If I only knew somebody, Congressman Burnett, who was a leader in the Republican Party that might be able to help with fixing messaging since he's an elected official. But I love the members of the party that think that the party is some sort of thing over there and not who they are. Right. And it perfectly encapsulated by him. But Trump's message on the message isn't that we fixed it. The message is they almost irretrievably broke it. He almost had it right with the affordability thing. And when he was saying that affordability is just a hoax. And of course, they went with the affordability is just a hoax. What he meant is that the reason that things are so dang expensive is because Joe Biden was your president for 4 years and they gave everybody money and it completely and utterly increased the cost of living by 35 to 40% on everybody in a short 4-year span of time. The last time that happened, I think, was the 70s when we were kids, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
That is the last time we've seen that. That is a correct thing. You know, focus on the person that, I forget who it was it Mazie Hirono that tried to own the Republican Party by saying that Trump increased the cost of electricity, but the entire increase was done over the 4 years of Biden on her chart because she doesn't know how to read a chart?
Which time?
Somebody gave her a chart and she just threw it out?
Which time did she demonstrate she doesn't know how to read? Which time?
Well, that was this week.
Okay.
I mean, it's probably a daily basis. But yeah, absolutely, that is not a winning message. But I will tell you about the my senior politics editor, Courtney Weil here at The Blaze, did mention something on one of our calls this week that district is like a D+ or an R+ like 9 district that Trump overperformed in. So it reverted to the norm, right? Like this election, it reverted to the norm. And you and I both know, Steve, that special elections, the party out of power, usually has a heck of a lot better get out the vote effort. I mean, that's what we saw. I know I'm a broken record, but I go with the Scott Brown election. But special elections are different than normal elections. There are people that get their vote out more easily in a special election. Am I concerned about that? Probably. But I think the Democratic Party, if you look at polling, is still polling worse than the Republican Party, right? Like the members of Congress. So that's still happening. We've got redistricting across the country, the Texas seats just got redistricted. Is it going to be an easy year next year? No, because as we know, young white women still want to kill their babies. And that's what happened to us in 2022. And it may happen to us again in 2026. So I'm not as black-pilled as a lot of people are, but I think that the representative, is it Burnett, should just look in the mirror and remind Burkett should look in the mirror and remind himself that he is the Republican Party and he could do something about it. That they're not just a people over there, but it goes to remind you, as the person I used to listen to on the radio the most in the 1990s used to say, that there are a reason that people are congressmen. Because they really can't do much else.
Todd, what do you think of the question and what Rob just said?
Of course it's not winning messaging, but that's actually a symptom. It's not the cause. The cause, going back to what I just said about the difference between the self-professed brown guy and all the simps he takes advantage of, the right just doesn't really believe in anything. They think that's icky over there, but they're not ultimately consistently, fundamentally aspirational about anything, which is why it is so easy to guilt trip them into stop trying on any number of fronts. We don't have enough fingers to put our holes in all of the dikes. That's how bad things are, but it just doesn't really matter because we don't believe in that reality. We want an alternate reality, and we're going to ride it saying we all the way home.
Aaron.
Since I do agree with Tim Burchett that the Republicans are struggling with messaging right now, and that goes pretty much all the way up to the top, I think they've gotten a little bit better than they were maybe 4 weeks ago or so. Essentially what Trump's message there is, this is the same one that we did segments and shows and screeds about for years from Janet Yellen, describing how the American people vibes about the economy is all wrong and things are actually a lot better than you think they are, and we lost our minds rightfully over that. That's essentially a version of what they're doing. I would just like to posit this. This should be your message from now until the end of April. Why the end of April? Because tax time is coming around. And I still believe, and I've even gone on H&R Block, a few of these tax preparers already have the provisions of the One Big Beautiful Bill, and I put things in for my family situation, and believe me, it's looking a lot better than it has for the last several years in terms of taxes. So from now until the end of April, when I think a lot of people are going to be saying, hey, actually, this bill that they got accomplished is really helping me, really helping my bottom line a lot. Here's your message, or some derivation thereof. Democrats want to come to the defense of narco-terrorists because they would rather not talk about what's coming down the pike here in the new year. And the people of the United States are going to be seeing a lot more money in their wallets. That's why they want to talk about this. You're not saying that everything is hunky-dory. You are giving people a definitive cutoff point where they can judge for themselves. They're promising by this point in time, things are going to be better. And I can judge for myself whether or not they actually are better economically for me. And at the same time, you're putting the onus on the Democrats saying that they want to obfuscate, they want to talk about anything other than that. So you're making promises, you're giving a definitive cutoff date for when people can judge for themselves, and you're also rightfully pointing out that Democrats are trying to talk about anything else other than this relief that is on the way. Some derivation of that message should be the Republican Party's message, at least until the end of April. So I'm sure they're not going to talk about that.
So I think my own question is kind of a trick question, and here's why. Because I think until people feel as if and experience that there's less inflation, and there is less inflation, okay, but the level of affordability compared to the rate of inflation is still not, people still feel and are upside down. The number one driver of this, by the way, healthcare costs, which I'm sure a lot of us, I know I did, doing all my renewals for next year here in the month of November. There is no messaging to get around the realities of those factors. Wouldn't matter. It literally doesn't matter whatsoever what Trump says right now. Not one iota. If the affordability ratio is in the right direction, it doesn't matter what Trump says next year. And if the affordability ratio is not going in the right direction, it doesn't matter what Trump says next year. Thoughts?
Well, that's what I'm saying. The messaging is immaterial. It's what we ultimately believe in.
Yep.
The realities, do we plan? We can grouse and whine and complain. Do we have any plans of doing this? No, anything fundamental? We never do. We don't want to. As much as we complain about things, we still look, our cup runneth over. We are comfortable as heck. We don't have the plans to address the fundamentals in any real way.
Oh, that's sure. Yeah. No,
cue up Texas going full Islam. But is high school football okay there in Irving? Because at least that's probably, yeah.
Awesome.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. At this point, we're just trying to buy more time. There's only so long you can just keep on trying to buy yourself more time.
Right.
And as much as I'm looking forward to the tax provisions in the One Big Beautiful Bill and how that'll impact my personal situation, and I'm sure a lot more Americans, their personal situations as well, that's just going to be kind of a sugar high if we don't stop printing money. And what are our plans to cut government to enable us to? None. Nil.
None.
So it's just going to be very transient relief if the fundamentals, as you're talking about, are not addressed.
We are teenagers with a credit card.
Correct. Exit question. If you're concerned about next year's midterms heading into the new year, were a Prince song, which Prince song would it be? A, Let's Go Crazy. We're not only going to lose, we're only not going to lose, we're going to gain seats. B, When Doves Cry, already weeping and gnashing of teeth in advance in anticipation of the outcome. Or C, Bat Dance. Nobody knows what the hell this is about. Todd.
Bat Dance.
Okay. Aaron.
I'm more B than I should be probably, but I'm a B.
Okay. Rob.
Bat Dance. Some people just want to watch the world burn.
Okay. Let's get to our kicker topic. If you could make the GOP Congress do one thing before breaking for the new year, what would it be? Aaron.
Force a vote on a nationwide ban on meatball surgery and chemical castration.
Oh, I like that. Just banning it, womb to tomb. Yeah, love it. I love that. Yes. Todd.
Mandatory property ownership to vote. We have to go back.
So go back to what the founders originally intended.
Yes.
Yeah. The problem is, unfortunately, while I principally like that, the wealthier you are, the more you're voting Democrat today. And it's actually a ton of our voters who can't afford homes that are having to rent right now. So while I principally agree with you, that would hurt us more than it would hurt them.
But I'm using the principle of why you think you should paycheck withholding.
Yes.
Let's wake people up.
Yeah, fair. That's why I said I principally agree with you. I just think in the short term that could be a yikes. Rob.
I'm going to set the bar low. No harm. I want the Congress to do no further harm.
So essentially just break now.
Yeah, just do no further harm. Just whenever they're in session, they'll just do further harm.
Yeah, just gavel out, like literally by the close of business today is really what you want.
Basically. Can we do that for the rest of the time? Might be better.
Let me switch the exit question. If Congress were not in session between now and next November, and no Republican leader or member of Congress was shown on camera between now and next November, would it improve our likelihood of winning the midterm elections? Aaron?
Stop it.
No.
Just stop.
Aaron, no?
No.
Yes, it would.
You think it would?
That's why I asked you to stop.
Todd, you're a no? Like if they just went away. They just went
but
away.
They're still getting paid, so no.
Okay. Rob, would it help our chances next November if they just went away?
Yes, absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Where's the gun? Where's it at?
It's up on the shelf. I
Did we
retired
put it away
for
the holidays?
for the Christmas season.
Yeah. All right, let's get to predictions. Aaron, go.
I had it on the tip of my tongue, and then that question that you just asked.
I broke you with that question.
You completely.
I'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Rob, go.
Obviously, it's that the New England Patriots will be the Super Bowl champions in February.
I remembered what I was going to say.
All right, Aaron, go.
You're going to see an increased incidence of players from the FCS level being drafted into the NFL in the coming years.
Okay. Todd.
Yeah. I was the same as Aaron. I like this show. College football.
How do you vex thee?
Yeah, I go to the old standby. No, and honestly, this Christmas season spending is actually going to exceed expectations, which will absolutely be used to paper over the lie that the economy is not doing great. But Americans are what they are at Christmas, and they're going to do what they do.
So my prediction last night, Warner Brothers announced that it is accepting Netflix's bid to buy its studio, which was the largest bid and a cash offer. I am going to predict that there's no way the Trump administration is gonna let that go through. They're gonna fight that for sure. Netflix is by far, of all the major content producers in America, by far the most left wing. By far. They literally cut development deals with the Obamas. Susan Rice is on the board. Trump is close with Larry Ellison at Oracle, who owns Paramount. And I think that I think Trump is adamant there needs to be more movies like Maverick and Top Gun and less like gayer things. Okay.
Yeah. Have you watched that last season yet?
No, I haven't. Jack Posobiec is doing a hell of a job of talking me out of it. I got to tell you that. Okay. Because he's already watched and he may have talked me out of it.
We've started it. I'm not sure if we're going to finish it.
Okay. He said basically the last season is just embrace gayness. That's the entire thing is what he told me. Or what he said I've seen him saying on the air, I should say, not to me, but in his public appearances.
The writing is bad. The delivery is wooden. It's just bad.
I think the idea of merging these two content producers, what is the most venerable studio in Hollywood history, with the insurgent, I think the Trump administration is absolutely going to not approve this, and this will be adjudicated in court, I think, for years, whether this sale will go through or not on an antitrust basis. I think it'll go all the way to the Supreme Court. Rob, good to see you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Or the people at Warner Brothers are really smart knowing that and just did that so that Paramount, Larry Ellison would just drive up their offer and back out. I could see that too. We'll come back. It'll be your turn on a Feedback Friday. Stay tuned. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace with Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre and all of you. And you can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox by emailing the show, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, me, we, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Also, please don't forget to subscribe to our new YouTube channel as well, at Deace Show on YouTube. Finally, if you guys wouldn't mind leaving us a 5-star review if you love the podcast, thank you very much on the podcast platform of your choice. Tens of thousands of you have done this for us. We appreciate each and every single one. You can also do yours today, if you wouldn't mind. You can also hit subscribe, or if you're on Apple iTunes, follow, and you'll know for sure that every time we do one of these new episodes, it's for sure right there in your podcast feed. So thank you as well if you've subscribed to the show. Thanks to our friends over at SelectQuote. For over 40 years, they've been one of the most trusted brokers in insurance. They've been helping more than 2 million Americans secure over $700 billion with a B, $1 billion in coverage, and their mission is simple: to find you the right insurance for your unique needs. They shop and you save. Unlike the other one-size-fits-all insurance companies, SelectQuote's licensed agents, they work for you. And in as little as 15 minutes, they'll compare policies from top-rated carriers to find you the best fit for your health and your budget. And again, they work for you and for free. No medical exam, no problem. They partner with providers offering same-day coverage of up to $2 million without needing to visit your doctor. Maybe you've got a pre-existing condition like blood pressure, high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease. They've got partners with policies designed for many of those as well so that you get the protection you deserve. So get the right life insurance for you for less and save more than 50% at selectquote.com/Steve. That's selectquote.com/Steve. All right, y'all ready for some Feedback Friday?
You bet.
Let's go.
Let's begin here with Mark. As you work on your next movie, I assume that you will rub elbows with many in the industry. Here are some ideas for other potential films you can pass along. Brownie. Barry Soetoro goes to Africa to find his wayward father. He carries a can of Alpo in his pocket that he sprinkles on all of his food. Remember, Obama once admitted to eating dog. Remember this? He did. Yeah. I love a good Barry Soetoro reference. Have you guys seen the Franklin memes going around?
Yes.
So I got to give a shout out to Josh Dawes on X. He made me laugh out loud. All right. He posted a Franklin meets Big Mike meme.
Yeah, saw that.
Did you see this? And then he captioned it, Franklin is red pilling hard. I laughed out loud. I did. I just laughed out loud when I saw that. I thought it was so funny. All right. Next movie suggestion here from Mark. It's a Wonderful, The Thing. The angel of JFK shows Biden how much better the world would be if Joe had never been born. You like that one too?
I mean, it's...
Get the The Thing reference. You got that?
Anything's better than what's usually in the theaters these days, so...
How about A Christmas Package? A cute little story about Lindsey Graham's adventures where he tries to secure a Red Ryder thermonuclear device for Christmas. DC Gremlins. AOC eats after midnight and turns into Nancy Pelosi. She then wreaks havoc throughout all of DC. They're trying to bring back Gremlins for 2027.
They're bringing back everything.
Yeah, they're trying to.
What are they not trying to bring back?
They're trying to bring back Gremlins. House Alone. By accident, John Fetterman is locked into the Capitol building over the Christmas recess and is the last line of defense to keep Ray Epps and company from breaking in. Freaky Sabbath. You ready for Freaky Sabbath?
Nope.
Freaky Sabbath. Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens both touch an artifact in the Smithsonian at the same time, and they switch bodies. Candace has to survive Hanukkah as a Jewish man. Well, Ben discovers he can say anything he wants. And his low IQ supporters will not question any of it. Wow. Those are all very good. But I see a lot of times when you guys send me these lists, you got to remember, you want to build up to the crescendo, right? Unless you're doing the Letterman, gag where the second to last choice is always the best, right? Okay. But you got to build up, right? Don't shoot your wad like in the first couple and then the rest are kind of a letdown, right? This guy, Mark, you did it. You did the thing, okay? The others were pretty good. But then you went for the crescendo, man. You went for the piece de resistance there at the end, brother. So well done, okay? I would watch Freaky Sabbath. I would watch that.
Did you see people losing their mind today? The Barbie writer-director Greta Gerwig, who's now doing the reboot of Narnia. What could go wrong?
Yeah, for Netflix.
A lot of they
with a female Aslan.
They said that without she used these as examples. She didn't say that they would be used, but she said the soundtrack will not be like classic fantasy. It's going to be very contemporary with things like The Doors and
yes, The Doors, very contemporary,
and Pink Floyd. I mean,
are you kidding?
Not classical. They are contemporary. Oh no, I'm not. That's what it said, and I saw multiple people commenting on it. Yeah, this is apparently what's going to happen.
Oh, that was IMAX's CEO discussing Narnia, what he expects from Greta Gerwig's Narnia. Not that changes what you said, but good Lord.
So my point being, the Candace idea is much better than that.
Yeah. So there's that. Gina writes, I'm in a world of hurt with my daughters right now because of the spiritual journey I've been on due to your podcast, by the way. I've posted a couple of things on X and on Facebook that have sent my kids, one in particular, into fits of anger. The last one was regarding the difference between works and faith and how just being a good person doesn't get you into heaven. Sadly, it's my most conservative daughter who's the one that is arguing with me. In fact, she told me that my posts are pushing her further away from the church. But when I see something that I really feel Christians need to hear, I think about what you guys say about weak, lukewarm Christians. Isn't it our job to share this information? And the answer is yes. I'm hearing that my kids feel that I'm alienating myself from them and that they're worried about me. My kids are all good, responsible people. They were raised in the faith, church every Sunday, 13 years of private school each. All have, though, left the church in adulthood. I clearly failed to some degree as a parent in this regard, and I'm about to give up on trying to reach them since it only backfires. In case you're wondering, I've had in-person conversations as well, but only with the conservative one. The last conversation did not end well. I'm awful at this, and I wonder sometimes if I need to just give up. Any encouragement for Gina before I chime in?
Giving up is never an option, just on its face. Change of tactics or what have you might be in order, but giving up on its face is never an option for a believer and not in that relationship that you have.
I'm going to just try to fill your cup a little bit. The level of self-awareness you showed by saying, I clearly failed in some way. We don't need to go into the details about why, but you're willing to own some of this is commendable because you're talking about having all adult, but young adult kids now. So you must be at least my age, Steve's age, if not a little older. But the simple fact of the matter is even when these kids were not getting into a lot of trouble, basically making good, like you said, they're basically good kids. Now I'm not going to get into the theological definition, which one of your daughters is struggling. What does good even mean? But they weren't getting into trouble, got good grades, yada yada yada. But the consequence-free environment that most kids have been growing up in for a very long time, where there really wasn't anything at stake other than their emotions bouncing back and forth, but real weight, that's probably what it was. If any family presented me with this, we just put child rearing and thus the entire culture on autopilot. Again, I am a Catholic refugee at Des Moines Christian School. I am blessed that there was an opportunity to make that decision. But you can see this all over that place already. That place celebrated its 75th anniversary, and it survived on nothing for about 2/3 of that. I mean, it almost fell apart multiple times. Serious grace of God stuff. And now there's so much money there. There's so much comfort there. And you can just see the autopilot taking over. And it's why I didn't send my kids to the Catholic school, because autopilot took the Catholic school, which has been around even longer, at least a decade or more ago. So this is a very common thing. Let's
define autopilot. Autopilot, you would say, is the institution. The message must serve the institution now, rather the institution the message. Is that what you would say autopilot is?
Yeah, there's a lot of that, and so you just don't see from family to family. You couldn't if they're living on a cul-de-sac with a lot of other well-to-do pagans. You just can't tell the difference anymore in how people live, what they listen to, what they watch, what they do. It's just and that was not the case. I know for a fact Du Bois Christian School was deeply unique for a very, very long time. So much so maybe even that a Catholic wouldn't even been allowed to go. So I mean, we just don't. We've lost our. What do you say all the time? The salt has lost its flavor, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we just don't. What is distinct about how we raise each other in a Christian home? Oftentimes, we check the boxes.
So, Gina, thank you so much for your willingness to step out for what you believe in.
Yes.
And unfortunately, you're learning that Jesus tells us the truth, and he warned us that these things will divide even our own household.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? These are warnings that he verbally gave us in the Gospels, and you are sadly living through this. Whether it's Gina or anyone else, there is no way, there's no way to stand for the gospel consequence-free. The gospel itself came with the highest of consequences. An innocent man gave his own life. And there's no greater love than this, that a man would lay down his life for his friends. So the gospel came at the greatest of consequences, so there's no way to stand for the gospel consequence-free. Throughout many churches in America, particularly in a lot of nice posh suburbs, a lot of people are being told that there is a consequence-free way to stand for the gospel, and they are in for a tragic reality check when the Lord looks at them and says, I don't know who you are. I don't know. And that we can also take the gospel and make sure we give you a mixed sermon in time to get 2 or 3 other services in here during the course of the day and do nothing meaningful whatsoever that would rock the boat or cause people not to give as much or might mean that we can't pay our note to the bank for the loan we took out for the building, blah, 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 blah.
That's what I'm saying.
And so there is no consequence-free way to stand for the gospel because the gospel itself comes with the highest of consequences. Now, and I keep reiterating that because I think it's important, Gina, that you understand, like when you said, I just failed as a parent. Well, number one, yes, you did, because we all have. Anybody been a parent for more than 10 minutes? Raise your hand. You failed. You're human beings, right? There's no, there's no perfect parent. We all make mistakes with this highest of duties. But I need you to understand, Gina, and others in her situation. You are not uniquely being picked on. Your loved ones aren't uniquely condemning you. They're not uniquely shunning you. They're not. This is the cost of the gospel. This is the cost. There is no consequence-free way to communicate the gospel, for it came with the highest of consequences. And you'll be more likely to endure if you understand that this is the sunk cost of this arrangement, okay? Than if you think you're like uniquely being cornered, uniquely being picked on, uniquely being targeted. You're not. And in fact, you're not really anyway. When Christ shows up on the road to Damascus to St. Paul, who is now at this time still Saul, the persecutor, does he say, why are you persecuting my fellow Christians? Is that what he says to him? He says, no, why are you persecuting me? So they are really thumbing their nose at Christ through you, not to you. It's not about you. And I think if we can absorb those two truths, we're more likely to endure and stay in the fight rather than give up. You're not being uniquely targeted. You didn't do anything wrong by speaking out. This is the cost for speaking out, regardless of what your family situation is, work situation is, any situation is. There's no consequence-free way to stand for the gospel when the gospel in and of itself came with the highest of consequences. Now, with that disclaimer out of the way, though, let me say this. It is vitally important, particularly when it comes to the people who are the closest to us and have spent the most time with us, the most intimate time with us, have seen us with our knickers down, figuratively and literally. It is vitally important that they see earnest attempts to live the way we claim to believe. And then when we fail, notice I didn't say if, because that's not even a debatable point. It's not if, but when we fall short of the mark, that we own that. So that in the end, they have nothing over you other than they just hate the message of being reminded they're a sinner in need of the grace of God. So number one, there's no foolproof way, no 3 easy steps, 10 easy steps to follow to make sure that you will not have pushback and division even in your own household for standing for the gospel. There's no foolproof plan. That's why we have martyrs. And the consequence-free gospel that the last generation of soft-headed Hawaiian shirt, skinny jean wearing, sweater vest owning American church has sold you is not the real gospel. It's a therapeutic pietism, some kind of, benign moralism with huge building campaigns and mortgages. So there's no way to do this. There's no way to do this to avoid the risk of consequences and blowback, particularly from those closest to us. But secondly, we need to also make sure, though, there are not obvious things unaddressed in our own lives that make it easy for people to point to those things and use that as the reason for why they're persecuting you or shunning you. But instead, to try to address those things so that it's obvious to everybody, you know that they know and they know that you know, that it's really just they don't want to repent of their sins. That make sense? And that's really all you can do. You can't do any more than those two things. Accept the cost of what standing for the gospel, what it is, because as hefty as it is, it pales in comparison to the cost that your Lord paid for you. It's not even close. You couldn't repay it if you tried. Couldn't repay it in 1,000 lifetimes. So you just have to accept that. This is the sunk cost of the freedom of my soul. This is the trade-off. Some people, including some people I greatly care about, may not like me, so that my soul isn't tormented forever in hell. That's the trade-off. But then secondly, are we addressing the things in our own lives that might be easy objections for people to use and hang over our heads? So that in the end, you know that they know and they know that you know. This isn't about you. It never was. They just don't want to repent of their sins. And you can't do any more than that. Simple, but not easy. But that's the path to hearing, well done, good and faithful servant at the end of your race. Thoughts on that really quick?
Well, it's not just about your family. It was the show today and our frustrations with multiple issues on multiple fronts have everything to do with we haven't raised a generation of people who thinks like that, cares about it. Quite frankly, we raise people who resent it, which is what you're facing. Your daughter just resents the truth. I don't know all of the reasons. Your kids are all different. They apparently have all left. They may all have different reasons. I don't know. But to Steve's point, you aren't even close to being alone. The reason our country is failing is we can talk about the Somalis all we want to, but it's mostly about people raised in the faith who have believed in a forfeit.
Let me add a third thing. This is also why it is vital for you to be in a good church. Because if you lose some of your earthly support family for an eternal kingdom, that is where God will make amends. And I can't tell you how many older men throughout the course of my Christian walk God has uniquely and strategically put in my path to make up for the dads I never had. He's really good at that. God's got like the best foster care system in the world, in the cosmos. So make sure you belong to a church that is supportive. So you have that support network. We good? Should we continue on?
Yeah.
All right. Aaron, we got to add something? I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I think there's a tremendous amount of wisdom in what both of you said. Just one quick challenge as well. This is where the rubber meets the road of your faith here. This is going to be one of those times, I believe, and maybe ongoing, where you have to just give things to God that maybe you don't want to give to God. Are you going to be content if none of your children ever come back to church? Are you going to be content? That's not an easy thing. It's easy for me to say. It's not an easy thing for you to give to God. But that's where the rubber meets the road of anybody's faith. When you come to these junctures, are you going to give it to God? Or are you going to cling to some expectation of what you want life to look like? And again, it's easy for me to say. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But that so often is what these junctures in life look like for the believer.
Let's continue on. This is from Seth Hedman, who's at Marshalltown Christian School, talking about my conversation last week about how I'm triggered by Wicked. Because I love The Wizard of Oz so much, and I don't like the deconstruction of the story. So I find it very postmodern to make the Wicked Witch the hero. Seth writes, I'm a middle school English teacher at a Christian school and pastor. And Wicked has definitely cast a spell over our kids, especially the girls. They see the glam and colors and songs and they get sucked in. They're constantly defending the details of the plot line, like, no, the witch is just misunderstood, or no, the wizard is actually bad. And I say, yes, I know, that's the point. The symbolism is pretty simple. The male wizard god king that you think is good is actually bad, and that ugly green witch that you think is bad is actually good. That's the postmodern critical theory in action. Turn the stories upside down and then move. It's essentially tear down the patriarchy feminism in story form. Just look at the poster, where you see the two women there are mimicking the, St. Peter's Basilica trying to touch each other is what he's talking about. They're telling us we are replacing the masculine patriarchy of God and man and replacing it with a feminine empowerment movement. Instead of God making man in his image, the witch is corrupting the princess into her image. Add to this one last dimension, moral relativism. Witches, monsters, and dragons are essentially bad in most fairy tales. Their whole job is to symbolize moral evil. The false masculine using strength to hurt others is an ogre. The false feminine using manipulation to devour her children is a witch. So when you make a witch the good guy, you are blowing up the capacity for moral judgment within a story. When a child only grows up with those stories, they have no capacity for moral judgment in the real world. This is what C.S. Lewis meant by creating men without chests in The Abolition of Man. So in Wicked, you've replaced male with female, God with a witch, beauty with ugliness, goodness with evil, and truth with lies. What do you guys think of what Seth has to say? I think there's a lot of truth.
Well, he's right, generally speaking, but this is like we are way down the slippery slope on this front. I mean, we're not just starting this with Wicked. Like I said, I haven't seen the play. I've seen the first movie. Haven't seen the second movie yet, but my daughters have, and I'm interested to see it so I can understand. Because after the first movie, there's still room to make it end exactly like the original ends, but the way they describe how it ends is a totally different movie. All that being said, though, even if it was closer to the opposite, still managed to pull off classical virtues. Our modern day storytelling isn't moving us to act based on that. This is why my thing about superheroes. Look at what they did over the course of 17 movies. Mostly men, yes, quite a few heroic men, but very, very classic men in action doing good to defeat evil. And we still became what we have. 2019, Steve, the Endgame came out, you said? Mm-hmm. Look at where we are now. We don't... The greater problem, why are we making any of this in the first place, whether it's Wicked or anything coming out of Hollywood or Netflix or Warner Brothers or whatever? Even if it's really good, if we go to watch something that is actually good, authentically good, and we don't have the hearts to understand it, to process it, to let it grow in us, there's no point in any of it, good, bad, or otherwise. The problem is us. We honestly, we went. It's really not fundamentally a Wicked thing or a Stranger thing. The horse is so far out of the barn on that stuff. We just don't plan on doing anything other than being entertained, and that's a problem. Honestly, it's even if Passion of the Christ, the two movies coming out, is that just spending $15 to buy popcorn and go watch something? Or do we want to actually be transformed by that which we ingest? It's supposed to be food and nourishment for us. And all we do is just consume and get entertained. And that's the real problem. So I don't have any problem with your analysis of that. It seems to match up with of other things I've heard before. But even if it's done exactly right, if we just say, hey, it's even worse, quite frankly. If it was great and it said, man, what? The gospel is there through and through. And then we go off and have excuses about everything, it's actually even worse. And that's a biblical construct.
That's really smart analysis that we just heard from the email. I understand the sentiment, though. This is not, I don't think, what was articulated, but I can hear some people saying, why are you so concerned about a movie when if you walk out of the theater, there are so many obvious fundamental facets of civilization, of reality, that have already been flipped upside down. In the real world, men can be women, women can be men, things like this, and that. Why are you worried about a movie? And there is, I understand that, but the self-reinforcing aspect of the good is evil and now the evil is good, those are things, in my opinion, you still need to be concerned about, and the things that you are ingesting and imbibing. But I just, for all that has been written and talked about when it comes to doom scrolling on your phone, the endless scrolling on your phone, I really do think ultimately it's a spiritual issue. Everything that we deal with is a spiritual issue. Ultimately, it's an issue of cowardice, things of that nature. I understand that. But in terms of just the physiological aspect of this, I don't know if enough has really been made about how much our phones, how much our tablets have really broken our brains, in line with what Todd is saying. Yes, Todd is describing a spiritual issue, but physiologically as well. We just are so conditioned to just be entertained all the time because we have it in our hand all the time. So I think that has everything to do with kind of the tertiary rabbit trails of this conversation.
To that end, I wonder if we just weren't meant to, particularly in our sinful state, if we're just not meant to know as much as we know right now. What was an old Steve Martin movie, The Man Who Knew Too Much? Is that right, from when we were kids? Do we just know too much? And therefore, it makes having any kind of sane worldview that is symmetrical and connective virtually impossible, because we just know too much about too many people, and the variables are just too extreme. We can't do the math.
But we also have too much. And that's why we're ingrates.
We'll come back. More Feedback Friday in a moment. There was a time, when chips actually tasted like real food, before the big corporations decided to swap out real cooking oils for cheap seed oils. Everything, fries, chips, all of it now used to be made in beef tallow. That changed in the 90s, and now seed oils make up nearly a fifth of the average American's daily calories. No wonder we feel bloated, sluggish, inflamed. Well, Masa decided to bring flavor and quality back to the party. Their tortilla chips are made with just 3 simple ingredients: organic corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. That's it. No seed oils, no filler junk. They're thicker, crunchier, sturdier than anything else out there as well. They won't snap off in your guac. And because of the tallow, they're really satisfying. So if you want to give Masa a try, use the code DACE for 25% off your first order at masachips.com, M-A-S-A, masachips.com. Again, 25% off with the code DACE at masachips.com. They've got a lot of cool flavors too, a churro flavor, the blue corn flavor. I'm a lime guy. They've got the lime flavor as well. Masachips.com. Use the code DACE for 25% off your first order with the code DACE at Masa, M-A-S-A, masachips.com. Okay. This one is way longer than I would normally entertain. But I wanted to share it because of the subject matter. And it's probably going to be the last thing we'll discuss today. All right. I'm writing to you because I took issue with a conversation you had recently on your show with Ben Zeisloft. So Ben is a leader in the abolition movement in America. And he has a new book out that we profiled. What was this, about 6 weeks ago, I want to say it was?
Yeah, at least.
About how the pro-life establishment essentially has lost the pro-life fight post-Roe v. Wade, basically. Yeah. Okay. And that I fully disagree with your conclusion about the abolition movement. And my conclusion is that the abolitionists are going to win. Just a matter of time. Because there is no real mainstream pro-life movement. It's out of strategy. It's out of talking points. Its leadership is rudderless. And while I think there are some tactical and certainly some messaging issues on the abolitionist side, they're the people who seem to actually be united in purpose and vision. And that's why I think they're going to win. He says, I want to start out by saying that I'm a huge fan of the show. I've been loyal since I discovered you guys in 2016. Even when we don't agree, I always know where you guys stand, and that's very rare. Yours is like the only show I try to listen to every single day. I haven't met you guys at all, but you guys feel like friends. I'm 47. I've been married for 22 years. I've got 4 children, 12 to 18. I'm a bivocational pastor of a Southern Baptist church in Versailles, Missouri. I've spent my entire life in pastoral and teaching ministry. About 10 years ago, I became active in the political world here in Missouri and ended up landing jobs working in the Missouri Senate, first for Andrew Koenig, who was the author of Missouri's Heartbeat Bill, and now as Chief of Staff for State Senator Rick Bratton. Like you, I fully agreed with personhood bills back in the day and always thought it was the best route to take to end abortion. Like you, I was disgusted with the pro-life establishment who would work against these bills. I could not stand the pro-life establishment to the point that I referred to them as the Al Sharptons of the life movement, in that they really didn't want to end the evil of abortion because then they would be out of a job. I remember being so dissatisfied with the Republican Party on the life issue in the 2000s because W. Bush was president with full control of the House and Senate, never once acted to end abortion. I remember asking myself, what is the point of Republicans winning elections if they are literally going to ignore the life issue altogether once they get into power? I recount that history because it is important to understand that I understand the frustration many feel with the life industry and why they believe we must do something different. When I first learned about the abolition movement, I thought it would be my home in the life movement. I agreed in principle with the concept of punishing abortion as murder because I believe that it is. I remember thinking that criminalizing abortion on the same level as all other murders might be the way to stop the practice altogether. I began to meet with abolitionists because I would see them at my job and talk to them. I saw them as my kind of people. I was very close to jumping in with them completely, even though I knew it would cause me to lose friends in the pro-life establishment community. I welcomed them into our offices and would set up meetings for them with my bosses. Thankfully, before I jumped in with them, I began to see the ugly side. It started with their disdain for anyone who did not embrace criminalization as the means to end abortion. They would claim that if someone doesn't want to prosecute women, they don't actually want to end abortion. When I would push back and explain that I know many pro-lifers who hate abortion and want to completely eradicate it, but do not believe punishing women is the way to accomplish that goal, they would dismiss them and me as not really being pro-life. This caused me to keep my distance from them while still appreciating that they were pro-lifers who wanted to end abortion. My plan was just to let them be, expecting them to do the same. But this past legislative session is when the mask really came off. As you know, in 2024, Missouri passed a constitutional amendment making abortion legal throughout all 9 months of pregnancy for any reason. It passed narrowly, primarily because out-of-state millionaires pumped $50 million into our state to run dishonest ads depicting women as unable to receive basic care because doctors couldn't help them under our abortion ban. On the flip side, our donors gave almost nothing, and our governor at the time, Mike Parson, was pathetically silent on the issue. We would have won if we could have flipped even 47,000 votes. So today we live in a Missouri where abortion is completely legal. Thankfully, we have legislators who want to fix this. So many joint resolutions were filed that, if passed by the legislature, would be sent to the ballot box for voter approval. These resolutions would delete last year's Kill 'Em All amendment, as you like to say, and replace it with a pro-life alternative. The pro-life side settled on a version that deleted last year's abortion amendment and replaced it with one that would only allow abortions for the first 12 weeks in the case of rape and incest, and for deadly fetal anomalies and the life of the mother. It also banned sex change surgeries for minors and banned puberty blockers. Thankfully, despite abolitionists packing hearing rooms with out-of-state activists and launching a massive smear campaign in which they claimed on many occasions that pro-life legislators were under the influence of Satan, we were able to pass H.J.R. 73, which includes the provisions outlined above. It will appear as Amendment 3 on the November 2026 ballot. Abolitionists also filed their criminalization bills, which oddly enough did not delete last year's Kill 'Em All amendment, but did criminalize abortion. The bills died quickly because they failed to repeal last year's horrific abortion amendment and because there is almost zero support for criminalizing women. The abolitionists in Missouri are now working around the clock to convince every church and pastor to oppose Amendment 3 when it goes on the ballot next year. Ben Zeisloft and Bradley Pierce from the Foundation to Abolish Abortion have stated on many occasions that all abolitionists should work to defeat this amendment. When they have received pushback by those currently pointing out that this amendment will stop almost all abortions in the state and that it will save some lives, they respond by pointing out that the goal of the abolition movement is not to save babies, but to please God, as if those two things could ever be in opposition. So these men who claim to be doing God's work are aligned perfectly and completely with the likes of Planned Parenthood and NARAL on the issue of Amendment 3 in Missouri. You might ask, how can this be? The answer is simple, really, and comes down to their theology. Every abolitionist I've ever met is an extreme Calvinist, the kind who believes God meticulously determines every action that takes place on the earth. Armed with this theological position, they are free from any responsibility for the results of their actions. If more babies die, well, that's tragic, but who are we to go against God? To them, God wants their bills, and only their bills, to be enacted. So they stand on holy ground as they work like dogs to defeat pro-life bills in states where every abortion is legal. There is much more to unpack about the abolition movement, but I'll leave it here. The abolition movement will never win the argument on abortion because the movement is against any progress that isn't a criminalization bill. The vast majority of people who are truly pro-life don't like that, and no amount of browbeating or name-calling from abolitionists will change it. Again, I love the show, and thank you guys for all you do. That's from Tom Estes, pastor at Calvary Baptist Church of Versailles in Missouri, chief of staff of State Senator Rick Bratton, founder of Missouri Protects. All right. Before we chime in on this, a word about our friends over at Chirp. If you've been struggling with back pain and you want to get active, maybe that's keeping you from getting active, neck pain, and you're like, man, these appointments are expensive, time-consuming. Well, that's where Chirp comes in. Their mission is simple, to bring relief to as many people as possible so that you can feel better, restore your energy, and make self-care simple with doctor-trusted, FDA-cleared devices that are the same techniques used in clinical treatments, but without the expensive appointments. Now, again, when I first started getting into fitness, this stuff was kind of brand new 10, 12 years ago. Now it's kind of everywhere. So at first, a lot of people didn't know about this kind of preventative health and thought maybe it was kooky. And then when people started to buy in, a lot of grifters came into the space. So how do we know that your stuff really works? That's why we tried it ourselves before we recommended it to you. Aaron got onto the Halo. I got onto the Contour. I got onto the rolling mini power massager. Each of us has their trigger point rollers, which, by the way, that is a term. If you're struggling with chronic pain, that's a term you need to get to know. Okay, and incorporate that into your own personal healthy lifestyle. They've got all this kind of stuff for you, a wide variety of products. We've tried them, gave them rave reviews. You can try them too. And visit gochirp.com/Steve. Free shipping on every order right now. All right, free shipping on every order right now at GoChirp, CHIRP. GoChirp.com/Steve. Free shipping on every order right now at GoChirp.com/Steve. All right. You guys want me to chime in on this first? Or do you guys want the first crack at this?
I think you or Aaron, as Protestants with Reformed sympathies, leanings, whatever. I mean, I'm interested in hearing how you reacted. I thought it was sober-minded. I thought it was fair. I didn't think it was reactionary. I mean, I think it was just another country heard from. I mean, he clearly respects you. So I'm genuinely interested in what you have to say.
I'll say something really quickly, and then we've got about 7 minutes left. I think you should address this.
Yeah.
I'm for saving babies. I'm for pleasing God. I am against the murder of innocents. Okay? All of those things can and should be true. I hope that any measure that leads to a reduction and elimination of abortion is passed in any state, in every state. I think eventually, however, the abolitionists are still going to win this argument. Now, this cuts to the heart of everything Steve has said, everything we have said about the tension between pro-life versus abolitionist. This email, tactics, what have you. but that's just speaking for me. I think all of those things can be true at the same time. We should be in favor of bills that eliminate or vastly reduce the number of children murdered. We should be in favor of pleasing God. Those things should not be in tension with one another. That's all I'm going to say. Steve, you can take it from here.
Well, I mean, that was a pretty good summation of things. First of all, his theological assessment is largely correct. Now, I don't know what an extreme Calvinist is, and chances are, if someone has a view you don't share, you view it as extreme, regardless of what that view is. Okay, but the people who we just commemorated the holiday for landing on Plymouth Rock would all be, by today's standards, quote, extreme Calvinist. Every last one of them were. So it was the dominant theology that came out of the Reformation, soterology that came out of the Reformation, was some form of predeterminative election understanding of salvation, was the dominant view held coming out of the Reformation, and was the dominant view still in most of colonial America at the time of the founding of the country. But that theological distinction is important. Because yes, I mean, if you believe that your efforts move the heart of God, you will have one understanding of what is achievable. And if you believe that we cannot move the heart of God, it is determinative to some degree, and that therefore the highest goal we can demonstrate in light of that, in light of that sovereignty, is faithfulness. You'll have that's a very important theological debate. But I'm here to tell you, that's not what most of this is about. If it was about that, this would be a very constructive debate, because we'd be debating what God expects of us. We're not debating that most of the time. You're in a very unique situation, brother, because your state, to some degree, your pro-lifers have their stuff together. I'm not getting emails like this from places all over the country. Hey, here's how we're going to respond to what they're going to do. Here's our plan. Here's how we're going to push back. Here's how we're going to make this happen. What you described you're trying to do in Missouri is not the norm around the country. The norm around the country is nothing. Unless a governor like DeSantis takes on the fight himself single-handedly and wins it, the norm around the country is absolutely nothing. No one within the sound of my voice right now can tell me what in the Sam Hill National Right to Life is doing right now, except planning a march next month. No one within the sound of my voice would be able to tell me the answer to that. And so I would say the debate that you are having with abolitionists in your state is different than what's happening elsewhere. What's happening elsewhere is we're not doing a cotton picking thing, and these people are stepping into the breach to say, fine, then you guys are out. You're tapped out. It's our turn. Now, some of the harder edge descriptions of how you said they communicate, you are correct about that. And I alluded to that with saying they have some of their own strategic limitations and messaging problems. And it's why, despite the fact principally they are correct, it is why they have also created a somewhat self-limiting movement because of the things you're describing. But the ultimate self-limiting movement is a pro-life movement that won't actually be a pro-life movement. So a vision for victory, no matter how difficult and problematic and peculiar the people might be pursuing one, is going to beat the no vision for victory at all every single time. It's just a matter, we're just debating for how long it will take. And yes, they are their own worst enemies at times. You've heard me say that to them on this show to some degree. I've said it to some of their faces in person. But they still have a vision for victory. What is the vision for victory? What is it? I would even argue you didn't even articulate a vision for victory. You articulated a good vision for how to push back on what was done to your state, and I wholeheartedly support it. But you would obviously agree the goal here is not to have abortions up to 12 weeks. So that's what you articulated was a defense of what's happened to your state, and I agree with all of it, and it's wise. But that's not a vision for victory. What's the vision for victory? What does victory look like? How do we get there? We were told for a generation that victory was overturning Roe. Well, we did that. So then what comes next then? And if you want to beat these guys, they're going to beat you. If you want to beat these guys, what is your vision for victory? We know we win when what? So we have to wait for enough people to think that abortion should be criminalized. Okay, fine. Okay, all right. Then how do we get there? What's the education efforts we're doing? I mean, what lobbying are we doing? What worldview are we teaching in our church? You see what I'm saying? Because if we're just going to sit around and say, well, until a critical mass of people agree that murder's bad, we can't outlaw it. Well, then what is the plan to outlaw? We're back to the personhood debates. You want to know why I joined personhood? I was told we couldn't outlaw abortion because of Roe v. Wade. I said, okay, then what bills are we doing to test Roe v. Wade? And their answer, Todd, was not a cotton picking one. Right. Nothing. So we came up with personhood to test Roe v. Wade. So what is the vision for victory then? Do you want to comment on that just very quickly, 30 seconds?
I thought you were wise to read this and have the only thing we did because that was a grown-up discussion.
Sure it was. Appreciated the note. Thought it was very grown up. Yeah, for sure. And it's a conversation that's going to continue because we lack a vision for victory. Have a great weekend. Go hard. Romans 8:28.